You can pick on all, corner, whatever, but I just named mine D700, so I tell it to play back D700. Hide image. This is where you can select images to be hidden from viewing on the card, or deselect images hidden from, that are viewed from being viewed on the card. Display mode. This is where you can show your basic photo info, focus point, highlights, RGB, histogram data, all that kind of stuff. Now, in here you have to use this to select them, okay? And you have to use your OK button up top when you're done. And don't forget to use done. You could hit OK here or OK here. Image review, on or off. I leave that off. And I take a shot, I chimp a little bit until I get my settings done, and then I don't need to see it every shot. This is every time you take a picture, it shows the picture instantly on the back here. After delete, show next, show previous, continue. Very basic. Rotate tall, you can use that as on. Then you can always hit the question mark here. Okay, basically it's rotating the images during playback so you don't see a sideways image. Slideshow, this is just where you can start a slideshow. That'll play it on the back of the thing here. It will also play it at the HDMI port. Okay, so that is all for the playback menu. The next one is your shooting menu. Shooting menu bank. You can have up to 4 banks. You could set up a bank for sports, set up a bank for portraits, set up a bank for low light. You can rename banks, all that stuff. I just did a factory reset on the camera, therefore I only have 1 bank called A, so that's where I'm going to leave it. I didn't set up my sports bank or nothing because for me it takes only a couple quick seconds to set up different settings where I don't really have to have different banks. Okay, this is to reset the shooting menu banks back to factory spec, factory name, wipe them out. There's your active folder. That's where you set up your folder numbers, stuff like that. File naming. This is where you give your files each a name. That way you can set it up for like different cameras if you own multiple cameras. If you work in some area where people actually are giving you files or you're giving somebody else files, you can put your name here. Okay, I don't care which camera I shoot with. I just leave it set to DAV. Image quality. This is, as you can see, where you set your image quality. NEF plus JPEG, fine, normal, basic, RAW, TIFF, JPEG, fine, normal, basic. If you're just shooting for the web, you're not going to do a lot of editing, something like that. You can shoot in JPEG, fine. Give you a hell of a lot more pictures per card. I always shoot in RAW. That's just me. The image size isn't going to show up because we are set to RAW. Image area. This is the Auto DX crop, and you can choose image area to FX. So if you put a DX lens on here, it'll automatically change your 12 megapixels down to 6 megapixels. That's what that setting is for. And if you put your FX lens and you want to shoot full frame, you leave that, of course, on FX. Okay. JPEG compression, size or optimal quality, kind of makes sense. You, of course, want optimal quality. If you really just don't care and you're shooting for the web or something for Facebook and you really need the space on the card, whatever. You set it for size priority. NEF for our recording, type is off. I have it set to 14-bit. And here you can set lossless compressed or uncompressed. I shoot uncompressed 14-bit. Okay. You also have a 12-bit setting in there. White balance for now is auto. Picture control. Now if you're shooting in RAW, these don't matter. But you can actually go into your picture control and set it to standard, neutral, vivid, monochrome, and you can actually edit each of them as well. You click OK and adjust. So say you're shooting JPEG vivid and you really want to sharpen it up, you can adjust the sharpening in there. If you want to shoot standard, leave it kind of like an OK process colors, but you want it to be more sharpened, you can click in here and adjust your sharpening, contrast, brightness, saturation, and hue. Okay. You can test those settings out, see if you like them, come back in here and hit reset, put it back to factory spec. I shoot RAW, so none of this applies. Okay. I'll just click on reset here. Yes. Alright. Back out to menu. Manage picture control. Okay. This is where create new custom picture control and save and edit. Did us adjust the picture before the picture is taken. Alright. You can also load and save. People have picture stuff that they upload and download all the time. You can load it in your CF card and load somebody's picture and color control and stuff like that. Nikon even has different quote presets for the D700 out there available. Color space Adobe or sRGB. I always shoot in Adobe. sRGB, shoot photos that we print or display with no further modification for sRGB. Adobe RGB has wider gamut than sRGB, making it suited for commercial printing applications. So I always leave it on Adobe RGB. Active D-lighting, I leave that off for sports shooting and stuff like that. Vignette control, I leave that off as well. Long exposure NR, off. High ISO NR, off. This is the part that will drastically change your sports settings if you have a lot of these things on. It will definitely slow up the processing of the image and getting you ready for the next shot. ISO sensitivity settings, base ISO 200, auto control on, and I have it maxed to 3200 for now. Also, you can set the minimum shutter speed. When it gets below that shutter speed, it'll kick into the auto ISO. So this is also a good thing to set. Like if you're doing portraits, you want to turn this off and just set it for 200. Some of you guys like to shoot, you might be in a spot where you want to shoot at 400 or 800. So auto ISO might not apply to you. So this is where you turn it on or off. Live view. Live view mode is either going to be handheld or tripod mode. And release mode is going to be single, continuous, lower, continuous, high, depending on what you set. Multiple exposure, off. You know what that's about. You can also set your number of shots, blah, 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 blah. Turn that on. Okay. Interval shooting timer. You can do a setup timer now. Okay. I don't use interval shooting very often. I'm not somebody that shoots the moon or the stars or something like that. But that's where you would set everything in here. Okay. I think that was it. Yeah, that was it for shooting menu. Custom setting menu. This is where you set your banks. I have it set for A. This is all these settings in here you can reset. Reset custom settings. I'm going to not reset that right now. We're going to go down to autofocus. Now, AFC priority selection, focus. Now this is also going to be definitely for sports shooting as well. So if you're going to shoot something that's moving, you're in AFC. I would rather lose shots and get shots in focus than just get a bunch of shots that I really can't use. So I set this to focus on all my cameras. Some people don't care. Okay, it's also for AFS, for single shot, focus or release. So those are two settings that are kind of helpful to you. Again, if you just want to get every stinking picture and play in editing for hours going through your blurry pictures and removing them, sure, set it to release plus focus or release only. If you'd rather take less shots that are in focus, well, set it to focus. Dynamic area AF. This is also something you want to set here versus the newer cameras. If you recall my D7500 and D7200 setup videos for focus, there was a little push button on the side here, and you spin the dial and set your focus point through the dial here. While these older cameras, they just don't have that. Okay, that dial does nothing. There's nothing to push in here. Okay, you can push it all day, it's not going to do nothing. So on the older cameras, again, this is where you have to go in and set it in autofocus. So if we're shooting sports, dynamic area, and I would set dynamic area down here, okay, and I would set it up here to AFC. This is again if we're going to do some sports. So I'd set this to C. We'd set this to continuous high. We would set this to dynamic area here, and this is where you go in and pick. Will it use 9 points around your selected spot? Will it use 21 points around your selected spot for focus? Or will it use all 51? Or do you want to use 3D tracking? So on the older cameras, you had to manually go in for your sports setting or even any type of focus setting and set it up here. So when I'm doing sports, if I can get close to the action and the subject is going to move across my screen, you know what I mean, like I'm close to the action, I will use 9 points. If the subject is a little farther away and there's a chance of things, you know, that are still pretty well blown out behind the subject, I will use 21 points. So those are the only two I use. Okay, this is how many focus points this will use on dynamic area, okay, when you're shooting. Just remember that. Autofocus tracking will lock on. I keep that to short. AF activation, okay, shutter and AF on. So I can back button focus here and whack the shutter, okay. AF point illumination on. That shows you in your viewfinder when you half press the shutter where your focus dot is. Okay, it'll be red. It'll light up red. Focus point wraparound, always on. So say something's at the right side of your screen and you got your dot on it, you hammer a couple of shots, now it's going to be the left side of your screen. Well, instead of banging this button all the way over here to keep going left, you hit this again one time and it brings that focus point from here over to here, and you can bring it across. So that lets it wrap. Same with up top. You're shooting horizontal or something, you have a focus point up on the top, you hit this again, it'll bring your focus point down the bottom. So that is what that setting is for. Now, AF point selection. Okay. You can have 51 or 11. Okay. I have 51 or 11. That's the 11 main points. So I leave that on 51 all the time. Built-in AF Assist Illuminator that shoots that little light when you're in low light. You can turn it on if you're indoors or shooting portraits or whatever, but for sports, leave it off. AF on for MDP10, that's for the grip. I leave that on. ISO sensitivity value, you can set these up from 1/3, half step, or 1 step. I leave it default on 3rd, all these. Exposure compensation, I leave off. Center weighted area, I leave that to 12. Now if I'm shooting models and it's a real tight, I can get a tight shot, like I'm shooting like an 85 or something and I got a real bright background, I might use center weighted and I might use like an 8, okay? Or I really want to get him on the eyes and focus just on the face. So that one, you can change that. And that would be dealing with, you know, your focus areas here. That would be your center weighted up here, okay? It wouldn't be matrix and it wouldn't be your spot, okay? Fine-tune optical exposure, okay? This is customized optical exposure for each metering method. This adjustment is not reset with a 2-button reset, so you can really fine-tune the exposure settings. Shutter release, AEL button, I have that off. That's where you can focus and recompose, stuff like that. Auto meter off delay, I got that for 6 seconds. Self timer, 10 seconds. So when you go in timer mode here and pop it on your tripod, you whack it, it'll focus, takes 10 seconds for that to fire. You can set it 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 or 20. Monitor off delay. Okay, this is when your playback 10 seconds. Menus like we're in, it takes 20 seconds. Shooting info display, when you hit the info button down here, that'll take 10 seconds. An image review, when reviewing an image, it'll take 4 seconds for it to go off. You can adjust those. Beep, high, medium or low, or off. High, low, or off. Viewfinder grid display, always on. Screen tips, you can leave them on if you're new. I keep them off. Continuous slow shooting speed, 3. Now, with the grip, I can do 8 frames a second. This won't go to 8. Okay, it'll only go to 7. Okay, so it's up to you. I'm in continuous high now. So basically, if I go to continuous low, I can set it to whatever I want. 7, 6, 5, 4. Without the grip, it's only going to go to 5. Remember that. So if you're shooting 8 frames a second in continuous high, you find out you're going too fast, this is where you can bump it down. And here. So, okay, we want to make go 4 or 5 frames a second. So that's where you set that in continuous low. Okay. Max continuous release. Okay, got 100, which is what it is. This doesn't apply to RAW shooting. I get like 17 of the uncompressed 14-bit RAWs in continuous high before the buffer's full. File number sequence, you can do on or off. Shooting info display, auto. Okay. Choose the appearance of the shooting information display for conditions in which the monitor is hard to read. For example, the lighting is too bright or dark. LCD illumination, I leave that off. Exposure delay mode off. Battery type, right now it's just showing what I have. You can actually pick whether it's an alkaline, you know. Battery order, I tell it to use the grip battery first. Flash sync speed, I always set that to 1320 with the FP. That way I'll be able to do my high speed sync and stuff like that. Flash shutter speed, 1/30th. Built-in control for built-in flash. You can have a TTL manual, repeating flash, or commander mode. You can actually use this camera in commander mode for the creative lighting system from Nikon. I just leave a TTL for now for the built-in flash. That's not your hot shoe external, that's just for your built-in flash. Modeling flash on or off. Auto bracketing set. I'll leave that to AE. Bracketing mode. That's the dials I'll use. Bracketing order. Okay. Switch. Okay. LCD backlight or both. I just leave that. Multi-selector center button, which is this one here. You can do playback mode, shooting mode, stuff like that. And you'll see, choose the role played by the multi-selector center button in shooting mode. Okay. You can have it to select center focus point, highlight active focus point, or not used. So I leave a default select center focus point. Boom. So if you're shooting and you have your focus point over here, you need to get back in the center quick. Instead of pushing this button over 3 or 4 times, you whack the center button and it'll center your focus point. That's what that one did. Okay. Multi-selector, reset multi-selector to do not or do nothing. Choose whether the multi-selector extends the time before the exposure meter turns off automatically. So I would do nothing. So basically, instead of these things going away, you can just whack this button and keep the session alive. Photo info playback. Okay, choose the role played by the multi-selector. This is all for the multi-selector. So you can move things over, up, down like that. It tells you what you can do for playing back an image. Assign function button. Right now I have it to off. You can set it to anything here. Virtual horizon, NEF, live view, center weighted spot meter, and you can do anything you want with that function button. Preview button. Preview button, I have it set to aperture. Then again, you can set it to whatever you want here. The preview button, which is this top button here. That's preview, and it's your function button. You could assign those buttons to do different things. Some people do them, you know, use them for setting focus points, ISO, whatever. So you can. I don't even mess with them. Assign the AE button here, which we already been. Okay, choose the operation mode of AEL, L button press without rotating the command dial. Okay. So you can do it to preview, FV lock, AE lock, AE lock only. Okay. I'll leave that default. Shutter speed and aperture lock. Okay, long shutter speed, exposure mode S, aperture mode A, or shutter speed and aperture mode M. Prevents accidental change of settings. This option has no effect in P mode. Okay, I'll leave it off. Customize command dials, reverse rotation, change made sum dials. You can do all your button stuff in here. Change main sub dials, switch roles in the main and sub command dials. If you want this one up, do your aperture, and this one do your shutter speed. You know, this is where you assign all your buttons here. Release button to use dial, I keep that off. No memory card, okay. What this says is choose whether the shutter can be released with the memory card or not. You know, you can use. Reverse indicators. This basically has you set the plus or minus for the plus to the right or the plus to the left. I like my plus on the right. AFC priority selection, so we're done with all these here. Okay. We're done with that. Back over here to setup menu. This is where you can format your memory card, which I do every time I turn my camera on. Hit OK. Alright, so LCD brightness is the brightness for the back. Clean image sensor is kind of a joke. You want to clean your image sensor here. Whee! Okay, done. Yeah, didn't do a damn thing, but anyway. Lockup mirror for cleaning. This is when you finally get around to doing your own cleaning. This is where you do it here. Make sure you have a fresh battery in it. Take your lens off. Get it set up in a nice proper environment, dust-free environment. Get your cleaning supplies out. And you lock your mirror up right here. Then you proceed to go in there and do your scrubbity-dubbity-dubbity. Okay. Video mode, United States, NTSC. Very simple. PAL for across the pond. HDMI auto 480p. You could set the HDMI output there. World time. Set up your time and date format, daylight savings time, blah 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 blah. I got mine set up here. Language, English, Dutch, Espanol, and all the languages are here. Image comment, I leave that off. Auto image rotation on. Now this is not the same as rotate tall. This tells the computer programs that you shot a portrait mode and to rotate it when it comes into your machine. Most programs will recognize this fact, some will not. Again, this is not rotate tall. Okay? See? Images taken when off, select will not be rotated for display during playback. So, battery info. This dust off reference photo, that's where you can take a picture, reference photo with something with a lot of dust on it. And then when you get in Nikon software, every image that you selected, whatever, it'll like try to remove all the dust off all the images that were shot with the reference photo in that sequence or whatever, but that's only through Nikon software. That's your battery info, 85% battery, charging life, 0 of 4. This one's still set to a new charging life, okay, whatever. I don't have a wireless transmitter, image authentication, I leave that off. Copyright information, I leave that off for now. I do my own editing, so I'm not worried about it. And you can save your load settings here. GPS, I don't have it. Okay. So, I don't have it. They, back in the day, the wireless and GPS transmitters you can buy as accessories. Virtual horizon. Okay. Shows you what that does. Most of the time you'll see that in live view. Okay. Non-CPU lens data. This specifying local focal length and maximum aperture allows matrix medium and balance ITTL flash control to be used with non-CPU lenses. And you can set which lens number and all that stuff. I have fine tune. Don't need it right now. This is where you can adjust for each lenses if they're front or back focusing, blah, 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 blah. Save value, tuning values for individual lenses. The stored value will be used when the lens is mounted on the camera and on for AF fine tune. Okay, so basically, say you have a lens, when you get your focus chart out, and all these guys get crazy with their focus charts, but you got a lens that's constantly back focusing. While that lens is attached, you could actually do a fine tune and set it to a minus value to bring that lens back to focus on your card instead of the background as an example, and you can save that in the camera. So when that is on, and like I said, say you put your 85 on and had back focus issues. After you tune it, you put your 85 on, fire up the camera, leave that on, it'll know to bring that 85 millimeters focus back so many notches, as a quick way to say it, that you've already set in testing it. So there's a gazillion videos on how to do that out there, and it's something the camera manufacturers added because, you know, every millimeter counts for focus, forward, backward, left, right, whatever. So basically what that does is, after you do the adjustment and save the settings, when that lens is put on, it will automatically know that it's got to set up focus for that. There's a firmware version, latest firmware for Nikon d700, 104 and 103. And we're done with that. Retouch my menu. This is where you can add items. So you can add, let's say we wanted to go to what I would like to add is, let's see here, ISO. I'm going to add ISO, sensitivity. Okay. I'm also going to choose position would be 1. We'll click OK. I'm going to add another item here in my playback menu. Let's see here. No, let's go into setup menu and go to format memory card. Click OK. Oh, they can't be used in my menu. That sucks. See, on the newer ones, on my 7500, I can just bang into my menu and click format memory card right off the bat, and then pick to my ISO settings, ISO, whatever. So that kind of sucks. Yeah, I don't need a clean image sensor. It's mostly what I need is for my menu, I can set, let's add the dynamic area. Okay. Okay. Alright. Remove items, rank items, close down. Alright, so I will save that. So in my menu, now I can set my dynamic area up, but it won't let me format the memory card here. That kind of sucks, but it's an older machine. Anyway, so this way, if you're shooting sports, this is a nice thing to do. So say I quickly want to go in and 9's not cutting it, the subject's moving too fast, or I'm too slow, I want to get something, boom. I can set it 21 points right there. Then I go on like sports shoot versus a modeling shoot, or just a landscape shoot, and I want to change my ISO. Bang, I can set it right here. Okay. So that's pretty much your whole camera here. I really don't get into the retouch menu at all. I care less about that. And that's it. Playback menu, shooting menu, custom settings we went through, setup menu, my menu. So we're good here.